Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Who will ask the first question?
I understand that the essence of free will lies in the choice to focus one's mind or not to. In other words, the choice to think or not to think. But what I don't understand is this. Doesn't one already have to be in focus before one can make any choice, including the choice to focus itself?
Here it's necessary to appreciate what's involved, to be very clear on the exact meaning of focusing. To focus means to set one's mind to the end or goal or aim of purposeful awareness. Awareness of what? Of whatever is confronting one, of whatever is relevant or appropriate in the context in which one is acting. Now, your question implies that the alternative to a state of focused awareness is a state of literal unconsciousness, which of course is not the case. What realistically happens is that from the time a man wakes up in the morning, he is conscious to some extent, even if his mind is relatively passive and he's walking around in a mental daze, let's say, he's still conscious. What happens in the case of a mind choosing to focus is that the mind raises itself from a lower level of awareness to a higher level. It aims itself, it beams itself at a given direction, at a given subject, at a given problem. Now you say, but in order to make the choice to do so, mustn't the person already be in focus? And I answer no, because it's possible on a lower level of awareness to be aware of the fact, here is something I should think about, the person speaking to me is giving me an argument I should consider, here is a problem requiring my attention, etc. and so forth. It's possible to be aware of that while one is still operating on a level of mental awareness which is inadequate to the situation confronting one. One is aware enough to know that there is a situation here requiring the full power of one's understanding before one has in effect moved into third gear, mentally speaking. And this is the reason why we can, confronted with the situation, not being yet in adequate focus to the demands of the situation, grasp the need for a higher level of awareness and aim our mind accordingly. And this is just what happens when we focus our mind. So this is the reason why the choice to focus does not require that the mind already be focused, because the concept of being in focus, generally we say, as I already have, it's a mind set to the goal of purposeful awareness. But for a more refined analysis of what is meant, and I discuss this in my book, The Psychology of Self-Esteem, for a more refined analysis, we have to add another related concept, and that is that the level of awareness is adequate to the demands of the situation confronting you. For example, suppose you're taking a walk down the street and it's a lovely day and you're breathing in and you're breathing out and you're enjoying the fresh air and your mind is not occupied with any particular problem. Now, your mind is certainly aware of what you're doing, assuming you are in focus. You know what your mind is doing. You don't imagine that you're purposefully thinking. You know you're more or less taking it easy and relaxing. And crucial to being in focus is being aware of what one's own mental state is in this very general, commonsensical way. Then a thought flashes through your mind. Gee, there's a very crucial problem I've got to think about that slipped my memory before. I really must think about it. Then you move to a higher level of focused awareness. You begin now an active process, perhaps, of conceptual functioning aimed at the solution to a specific problem. Now, on both of those cases, I would say that your mind was in focus if, in the first case, you knew what your mind was doing, and you had then a level of focus adequate to the needs of the situation. When the situation changed, you moved to a higher level. So that when we say a person is out of focus, we judge this in part in the context of what are the demands of the situation confronting him. So that, for example, if he is lying on a hammock in the afternoon sun, relaxing and knowing that he's doing so, I wouldn't say that he's, quote, out of focus, certainly not in any pejorative sense. But suppose now his wife approaches him and wants to discuss some serious problem with him. He'd have to raise to a more intent, an actively conceptual level of awareness. If he remained on an earlier level, we would say he was now out of focus relative to the requirements of the situation confronting him. Yes, next question.
Is there any particular knowledge about reality or the human mind, which is necessary in order for a person to be rational?
Well, here it's an issue, first of all, of clarifying what is meant by being rational. In the most general sense, to be rational means, first of all, to be concerned to understand what are the facts of reality and to integrate the evidence of reality in a non-contradictory manner. This is exhibiting the faculty of reason in practice. Then, by extension, to be rational carries the meaning, when one acts, to act under the guidance of one's best, clearest, most rational knowledge, in other words. A concern with rational justification when one acts. Now, if this much is clear, there is a certain ambiguity that needs to be cleared up in answering your question. Because if by your question you mean the primary sense, a concern with understanding the facts of reality and with guiding one's behavior in the light of one's understanding, why then no, there is no especial knowledge one needs to know about reality or about the operations of the human mind beyond the general kind of information available to us all very, very early in life. But obviously knowledge is required in the sense of, if we are observing the behavior of a grown man, and we say that in such and such a situation he behaved rationally or he did not behave rationally. In either case, his rational behavior, or for that matter his irrational behavior, would exhibit all kinds of knowledge which he would have relative to the particular situation or issue he was involved in. But if I understand the basic meaning of your question, is there some particular knowledge you have to have? Then I would say no, or rather the kind of knowledge you have to have is available to everyone, very early in life, as I say. Knowledge like what? Knowledge that it's imperative that we know what we are doing when we act, that we cannot with impunity act blindly. Knowledge that it's important to know what we're doing. Knowledge that contradictions do not exist. That kind of knowledge. But you see, that's not something that anybody can claim at the age of 18 or 20. Well, nobody ever told me that there were no contradictions in reality possible to man. So that if I do understand your question, rationality in the primary sense of being reality-oriented, concerned to understand reality, concerned to adjust one's behavior to the facts of reality in the light of one's best honest understanding, why then in that sense I would say no special knowledge is required.